Hey y'all, it's Rick here with Uncommon Communion. Glad to be with you here on a Sunday evening. I am excited to share with you a new-ish retelling of a familiar story and to tell you a little bit about uh, something I wrote about yesterday for today in my written post that happened. So, let's begin as we always begin by recognizing, realizing, supporting, affirming that we are always and everywhere in the holy presence of the more and each other. So, first things first, worship today, liturgy today was great. One part of it that made it great was you may have heard yesterday that if you read my post for today, I described a lesson of using the scripture and the motions of the various characters, the various players, if you will, to pantomime during the reading of it. And Father Joe, our wonderful pastor at St. Matthew's Episcopal, also known as the Pray, Think, Love Church, opened up the sermon, the homily today, with this particular activity, this particular way of engaging. It was spontaneous. I was one of the people. I played Jesus. A couple of friends and co-congregants played the other two roles, and it was really powerful. I'm going to share the photos that we took of it, a few of the photos, in the written post for tomorrow. I do plan on getting a written post tonight, so look for that tomorrow. I think you're going to like it. It was pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to share is the way that Father Joe began the liturgy overall. Now, you'll remember that the liturgical gospel lesson for the day was part of it was about hypocrisy, right? The synagogue leader wags his finger at Jesus doing this healing, and Jesus calls them, the leaders, hypocrites. And Father Joe began with this story, and I really like the way that this Aesop's fable describes the moral, right? Remember, Aesop's fables always have, the moral of the story. And I really like how it describes hypocrisy here. So I'll begin with this. A fox one day spied a beautiful bunch of grapes hanging from a vine trained along the branches of a tree. The grapes seemed ready to burst with juice, and the fox's mouth watered as he gazed longingly at them. The bunch hung from a high branch, and the fox had to jump for it. The first time he jumped, he missed it by a long way. So he walked off a short distance and took a running leap at it, only to fall short once more. Again and again and again he tried, but in vain. Now, exhausted, he sat down and looked up at the grapes in disgust. What a fool I am, he said. Here I am wearing myself out to get a bunch of sour grapes that are not worth gaping for. And he walked off very, very scornfully. All right, so here's the message, the moral of the fable, of this Aesop's fable. There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. I'm going to say that again. There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. This unlocked something significant for me, hearing it that way. Because, y'all, I've talked here before about what I call Hypo-Christians, right? Or Christians in air quotes, people who proclaim to follow the gospel of Jesus the Christ, and yet these are the same people who are seeking dominion over others and forming, a restrictive, fascist, Christo-fascist government, and so forth, right? And the hypocrisy under this understanding is because they despise and belittle those of us who have compassion and empathy, because Jesus did, that period, right? He had compassion for this woman. And multiple times in the gospel, it says Jesus was moved with compassion. Those who are cruel and who are not seeking compassion, and those who belittle empathy, and they are doing that, y'all. Those who belittle that pretend to despise it because it is beyond their reach. Now, that beyond their reach, I have a little bit of trouble with that, right? And again, this gets to some deeper questions. Those people who are supporting the cruelty, supporting the militarization, supporting the rising fascism that we are seeing each and every day, those that are ripping apart the Constitution, right? Are they a different way of being? Is it beyond their reach? And one who is sick, one who is addicted, one who is brainwashed, one who has sold their soul and their integrity to another may very well be beyond their reach. Not beyond God's reach. God can always work. But very likely that it is beyond their reach at this point. I mentioned that this idea about empathy as wrong. There was an article today in the AP, Associated Press, and I'll put a link to it here because I think it's really, I've seen this idea elsewhere, and now I think it's starting to be talked about more. And the headline is, "Can empathy lead to sin? Some conservative Christians argue it can." I'll read the first two paragraphs here. "Empathy is usually regarded as a virtue, a key to human decency and kindness. And yet, with increasing momentum, voices on the Christian right are preaching that it has become a vice. For them, empathy is a cudgel for the left. It can manipulate caring people into accepting all manner of sins according to a conservative Christian perspective, including abortion access, LGBTQ plus rights, illegal immigration, and certain views on social and racial justice." I'm going to read one more paragraph here. This is from an author, Allie Beth Stuckey, who wrote Toxic Empathy, How Progressives Exploit Christian Compassion. And here's the quote: "Empathy becomes toxic when it encourages you to affirm sin, validate lies, or support destructive policies." Yeah. So, there is a lot I can say about that. And, I encourage you to read the article. I think, I mean, I believe it is in our human nature, as we are created in the image and likeness of God, to be compassionate, to be empathetic, to be moved by the suffering of others. And when we are saying that is wrong, something else is at work here. St. Ignatius talks about the enemy of human nature. Satan is how he refers to Satan, enemy of human nature, right? Which is sin. And what better way does the enemy of human nature work by taking something and twisting it, right? And we see so much of this twisting right now. And that's what's going on here. This is all, Orwellian, right? Up is down, left is right, and so forth. 2 + 2 = 5, to quote 1984. And yet, this is going on in our so-called churches. So, it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. But, we have each other here in this Uncommon Communion community. We have Substack, which every time I use it, I become more grateful for it. And we have other voices. Some of them are from eras past, like Meister Eckhart. And we'll close with this prayer. It's a very simple one. It's from that Meister Eckhart book that I refer to. If you don't truly have God within you, you will know you'll always be looking for him somewhere else. So how do you know if you don't have truly God within you? Because you're always going to be looking for God somewhere else. All right, y'all. Look for my written post tomorrow and those photos that I mentioned. Do read the AP article. I think it is very important for us to be aware of what is being said and upheld out there. And I believe how the enemy of human nature is working very, very, very harshly in our world today. All right, y'all. Blessing and good. Be gentle. Be well.